All right. At this point, our meeting is being recorded, and I'm going to be sharing the screen with everybody. Okay. Okay. So everybody, right now, this is going to be your main resource that you're going to be using for our Adult Sports Leagues program. This right here is Team Sideline. For our returning teams, you know this very well. www.teamsideline.com. If this will go away, I'd love to get a chance to. All right. I'm going to show you how to access it here in a bit. Okay, close enough. All right, so we'll open up a tab, www.teamsideline.com/Ventura. It will take you to our page. I'm going to send out this link as well, so you don't have to remember it. But right now, we're just advertising for corporate games coming up in October. But as you scroll down here, you'll be able to see more information about our upcoming season. We have all of our soccer information listed right here, as well as a link to register online, closed right now, a chance to download a roster, which I have sent out today, and a link to the manager's guide and code of conduct, which we'll be going over shortly. The schedules will be over here on the left, and I've left the summer schedules available. So you'll click on these, you'll open up, you'll see all the different divisions, you'll find your team, and then you'll be able to find your schedule. I do want to give a heads up that things change. We all have lives outside of soccer, unfortunately. So as situations arise, I may be changing the schedules. If there is a change to the schedule, I will be sure to notify you as soon as possible. But that is just so you know, hey, if you see the schedule, don't, print it out, put it on the refrigerator immediately. It may change, so be aware of that. But for instance, you can look at last year's Co-Ed A. You'll see a map, a diagram of all the fields. Updates will be up here. All of the teams and how they are doing in the standings will be listed right here, and the games and the schedules will be right here. The scores will usually be put in either the Monday night of the games or Tuesday morning the next day. Sometimes there are issues with scores. If you do notice an issue, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to change anything. A lot of the times the referees have very poor handwriting, and so it is a little difficult to tell the difference between a 5 or a 6 because they're writing quickly or they do not mark it. But we are looking forward to a good season. We're going to have the same referees returning. And the referees also go on a rotating field schedule. So you won't see the same one more than twice throughout the course of the season. Okay. One thing real quick before we do move on. This may change. The exact locations may change. But I do want everyone to take a second here to look at the screen if you can see it, to notice where the goals are going to be placed at the end of the night. For any team that plays at the 9:15 time slot, that means when your game is over, if you could please help push the goals back to their proper stored locations for the evening. They're not very heavy. 2 people can do it very easily, but the only problem is that I only have 2 staff people working at night, and to require them to stay late to push all 5 goals back is very taxing. And if they're left out, it makes the work for their grounds crew the next day as they're preparing for more programs much more difficult. So please, if you would, it doesn't take a lot of people. It doesn't take a lot of time. It'll take you less than 5 minutes. But you see, if you're playing on field 1, you'll push it right here behind the yellow fencing. 2 and 5. This field actually won't be here. It'll be down here. So 2 will be pushed back here. 4 and 5 will be pushed back here, and 3 will be pushed over here. The locations will make more sense once you're out of Camino. Okay, so now that we've gotten over that, let's go to the manager's guide. So like I said before, if you're on Team Sideline here, you can scroll down here to find the manager's guide. You click it, and we'll open up into a PDF, and this will have all the information. If you have any questions or issues, please refer to this. I highly recommend it. If you can't find it in here, then feel free to reach out to me. A lot of times there will be things that come up that aren't in here, and I need to know that because I like to be able to adapt and change things as they happen, and address things so that by the next season we won't have the same issues. I'll be bringing up some of those a little bit later here. But if you have a question, you notice it's not in here, please let me know so I can change it so we don't have any more confusion. Registration deadline already passed. Start date will be next Monday. And here we go. Referee fees are $20 per game. Please pay in cash to the referee due at game time. Make sure your teams, you have everybody bring a white jersey or a very light colored jersey and a dark jersey as well. We get into a situation too often where there are two teams that are both wearing either black or dark blue or something, and the referee cannot tell them apart. So make sure everyone on your team has an alternate color that's all the same color. We do have a spare of pennies, but I don't recommend using them. I would recommend using your own t-shirts and clothing instead. My contact information, my supervisor's contact information. Okay. We still have a few COVID liability waivers and things that we're going to be addressing for this upcoming season. Past season, we had everybody sign a COVID waiver. This upcoming season, we're going to have everybody do that as well. So everyone on the team is going to have to sign A, the team roster, and B, an individual COVID waiver. If you haven't already sent those in, no big deal. We are going to have them printed out and available for your teams on game day. So we'll make sure to get those signatures on game day. You don't have to worry about getting them in ahead of time if you haven't yet. Players are only allowed to play in one team per division. This is to prevent people from being on too many teams in the same division, having to choose between teams. That is to say that you can have a man on your team play for a men's team and a co-ed team. You can have a man play in the competitive division or a or a non-competitive division, but you couldn't have the same guy playing for two teams in say a men's regular Division A division. Rosters are limited to 12 players. This is because we only give out 12 prizes at the end of the year, and it also helps with playing time. Your roster gets too big, you're not going to get enough PT for everyone. There will be 8 games over the course of 9 weeks. Everyone will have a bye week at some point. After 9 weeks, the top 4 teams in each division will make playoffs. And playoff games will be scheduled for 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30. If for whatever reason you cannot make it to one of your games, please let me know as soon as possible. If you let me know more than 24 hours ahead of time, there will not be a forfeit fee. However, if you cannot contact me more than 24 hours ahead of time, for your forfeit, then unfortunately you are going to be charged a $40 forfeit fee. That's $20 for your team and $20 for the other team. Because there's no reason to make the other team pay if you aren't going to be able to attend your game. And the referees are still there. They're still committing their time, their energy, their day to being there for you. So you still are responsible for making sure they get paid. Please let me know as soon as possible, though. Now it is the fall time. Weather looks pretty good right now, and I know we're in a bit of a heat wave right now, but it won't last forever. Fall, the clouds come in, weather tends to get bad. If for any reason we have to delay, cancel, postpone a game, please check Team Sideline throughout the course of the day. I'll be posting updates as frequently as possible, and then I'll also do my best to send out emails ahead of time. A lot of this comes down to the field crew being able to prepare the fields, and they're going to be working all day long to see if they can get them prepared in time. If they can, then we'll have games. If they can't, then we won't have games. And I can't guarantee, some fields might be ready, some fields might not be ready. So if I recommend checking Team Sideline as often as you can, rather than just sitting around waiting for an email from me, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to get a chance to email everybody individually to let them know. Here are just some of the basic rules. I'm going to go over these really quickly because you know where the book is, you know how to find them. But 6 players on the field, including the goalkeeper, so 5 field players. Unlimited substitutions, but please wait for a dead ball for all substitutions. That means the ball has gone out of bounds. There's been a goal scored. The referee has blown their whistle, foul, penalty, anything. This isn't hockey. We don't do hockey subs. Please wait for the correct opportunity to have players exchange trade places. For co-ed teams, you can play with as few as 1 woman on the field. However, you cannot replace the women with men. So if you only have one woman show up, you're playing with 3 guys and 1 woman. If the reverse, however, is not true, if you are short men, you can play with as many women as you like. So you can play with 6 women on the field if you want to. Games, still says 20, but they are going to be 25-minute halves with a 5-minute halftime. We decided to increase the time because everything was running very smoothly last season. But especially for the teams that have the 6:15 game, the clock starts at 6:15. The referees are not going to wait for your team to show up to get there before the game starts. 6:15 is game time. The clock starts at 6:15. If your team is late, you lost that time. We're not going to start, and if you're more than 10 minutes late, you're going to, if you can't field a team within 10 minutes of start time, you're going to forfeit that game. So if you got 4 players showing up and you got 2 people on the way and it's 6:30, sorry, you just lost that game. No slide tackles while making a play on the ball. A lot of the referees are going to be a little bit more liberal with this call. We try to discourage people from making any kind of too much physical contact that's outside of the needs of the play. We don't want people getting hurt. So no slide tackling other players. You can steal the ball. You can, jockey for position. That's fine. But if it gets a little too rough, then our referees are going to let you know. You can slide tackle to try and keep a ball from going out of bounds, try and keep a ball from going inside of the arc, but not near other players. A slide tackle on a player is an automatic yellow card, and 2 yellow cards is a red card, DQ, with no substitution, and suspension. And I'll be getting into suspensions later. Throw-ins are replaced with kick-ins. All kick-ins from the sideline are indirect, while all other free kicks are direct, including corner kicks. And after a goal is scored, the goalie is going to take the ball and put it in play from his side of the field. If an offensive player enters into the goalie area while making a play on the ball, it's a turnover. If a defensive player enters the goalie area while trying to make a play on the ball, then it is a penalty kick taken from 43 feet away. Going into the arc is okay if you're not trying to make a play on the ball, but if you're making a play on the ball, you're going to get called. And once again, remember, our referees are alone out there. They're doing their best, especially for the later night games. It gets a little bit hard to see. If you see the other team doing something they're not supposed to do, don't freak out. Don't get all crazy. The referees are out there. They're doing their best. They're doing everything they can to be in the best position they can to see the game as it's happening and make calls equally for both sides. So unfortunately, you're not going to get everything that you see correctly, but I guarantee you they're going to miss other calls for the other team as well. Goalkeepers cannot handle a ball that has been kicked back to them. They can kick it, just no hands. Only one defensive player can be in the goal area at a time, which means if your goalkeeper leaves for whatever reason, another player can go in to play, but they cannot use their hands. Okay, and a player needs to be on your roster to be eligible for the playoffs. Few other rules. Players are going to self-administer wellness checks before games. If anyone's not feeling well, please go home. No reason to play when you're sick. No reason to spread sickness around, regardless of what you have. Take care of yourself. Today's a virtual captain's meeting. And if you can't abide by any of these rules above, then we will remove any players from the field of play and give them a suspension. This was a little bit more direct when we had a few more rules in play. All right, going down to the code of conduct, everybody's favorite. Big bold letters here is that we do have steps that we can follow in our code of conduct. However, if you've done any kind of infraction that is egregious enough, we can skip any of these steps. If you start threatening people, we don't need to give you a warning. If you are threatening people, the referee can kick you out of the field, kick you out of the game for your behavior. Does not need to follow along with any kind of order or progression. We use these as a general idea. However, if you've done any kind of infraction that's egregious enough, we can kick you out and give you a suspension. So these are just what we prefer to go by if you're playing a little too rough, if you need a little warning. I'm going to be going down into the major infractions later, though. Anyone who receives a red card is going to be kicked out of the game, once again with no substitute, and they'll receive a 1-week suspension minimum. So that means they will not be able to play in the next week's game. These are the major infractions, the ones that you're going to be kicked out for no matter what. Any unnecessary physical contact with an official, player, staff, or fan. It's a contact sport. It's a physical sport. There's going to be bumping, but it all needs to be within the play of the game. No punching, no kicking, especially people who aren't on the field. If you start getting into it with another player, a fan, any one of my staff, the referee, anybody, you're going to be kicked out. And these will be longer than 1 week suspensions. We have suspended people for up to a year because of things they've done. Verbal abuse, objectionable demonstrations, any kind of threatening language, unnecessary profanity, inappropriate gestures towards officials, fans, staff, other players as well. If the referee deems that it's inappropriate, you're gone. And then unnecessary rough play. Like I said, it is a physical sport. It needs to be within the realm of making a play on the ball. If it looks like you're just trying to tackle people out there, if you think you're playing the wrong sport, if you think you should have been drafted by the NFL, you don't need to be here. This is for fun. This is for adults who want to get exercise, get some cardio, have a good time, still be competitive, but to a degree. And if you cross the line, we will kick you out. And once again, a lot of the times these are up to referees' discretion. So if you do one thing 1 week and a referee doesn't say anything, if you get kicked out the next week, I'm sorry. That is just the referee's discretion, though, and you're going to need to abide by the rules for each referee. This is because these are subjective. A lot of these things are going to be subjective, so I would recommend just play it safe. I try to have our referees be as consistent as possible, but it is hard. It is difficult. I'd say just play it safe. Don't take the chance. Lastly, consuming alcohol. All City Ventura parks are non-alcohol permitted. If we catch you drinking alcohol, we can forfeit your team, kick you out for the week. Okay. If for any reason you don't think that you deserve the penalty, you can appeal it within 3 days. If there is a penalty that you're suspended for a week or longer, then I'll be sure to email you within a couple of days to let you know. You can appeal it. Just feel free to reach back out to me, and then I can look back into it some more to determine whether or not the punishment was fair or not. But these are for suspensions that are longer than 1 week. If you need to add or drop players, just go ahead and let me know. Happy to do it as soon as possible. We have an add drop form on Team Sideline. I'll show you that as quickly as I can. You go to Team Sideline, our home page. Scroll down, not right there. You'll have to go to downloads. I'll make this easier to find as well. But right now, if you go on softball, add drop, it will open up this form. And then this is generally how I like to receive these. Put down your name, the player who's dropping, and the player you're adding. This way, they can take that roster spot. Because remember, if you just have people show up for a couple of weeks, doesn't matter. They need to be on the roster to play in playoffs. A lot of people ask me this question, so that's why I've decided to add it in. These are our tiebreaker procedures. So if you have the exact same record or the same number of points as another team and you're worried about getting that 4th seed for the playoffs, this is how we look at it. The first thing is always winning percentage, so you're basically your record. After that, it's your head-to-head. So if you and another team are both trying to get to the playoffs with 16 points, if they beat you head-to-head, they're going to have the priority to the playoffs over you, even if you scored more points than them throughout the course of the season. We feel this is the best way to determine the higher ranked teams. If you play more than one game against them or you tied, we'll be referring to the other ones down here afterward. All right, and then what everyone's really here for, the playoffs. Top 4 teams will make the playoffs in each division. Prizes will be only for the first place team. Players need to have played in at least 3 games throughout the course of the season to be eligible for playoffs. This means it's very important, big, bold, all caps, that when you receive the yellow scorecard from the referee before the game starts, they write down everybody's name, that it is neat and legible. I do not want to have to go back through old scorecards the day of playoffs trying to determine if somebody's name was, Johnson or Jansen. because I have no guarantee that I'm going to be available for that. I have no guarantee that my staff are going to be able to have time to do that. So please make your writing legible. If player shows up late, find the referee, get that yellow card, write their name down. Because if you don't have their name on that card, they are not considered as present, and they will not get that credit for the game, which means if that was the third game they needed to play in the playoffs, they're not playing. Okay. Yeah. At this point, I think I've gone through the manager's guide. Sorry I went through that quickly, but it is there for you to review. And once again, feel free to email me any questions. At this point, I'm going to be going through the looking over your questions and answering them for you. And the chat as well will be saved and sent out to everyone. All right, so first, can we make sure the jersey thing is enforced? There was one team with black and white stripes, which was confusing when playing against teams that had black and white alternates. I'll be sure to send an email out about that to try and make sure that teams know that they need to have a solid color as well. It is very hard to enforce, and that is why we do have emergency extra jerseys for teams. But I will try to remind teams to have solid colors, no stripes. The only people who should be wearing black and white stripes should be the referees. What happens if the ref is late? We've had it before where they're late and they still start the clock at 6:15, but they aren't ready. If the referee is late, then I will be sure that they know not to start until they are ready. If I see that again, I'll be sure to let them know. Thank you though for bringing that up, because that is something that I need to know about. Some refs don't seem to understand that you can run in the circle if you are not making a play on the ball. This is something I feel like I've talked about with the refs, and I'll be sure to bring it up with them again before the season starts as well. I've definitely mentioned it, definitely talked with it about them in the past, and so I'll be better about reminding them to make sure that they know. Oftentimes they will forget. They are humans. They're out there, and a lot of these guys referee multiple nights a week. Oftentimes I've seen them get rules confused between different divisions, but I will be doing my best to make sure that they know if they're not making a play on the ball, it's okay to just run through the circle to get back into a position. And what is the minimum number of people needed to field a team for men's? There really is no minimum number. I mean, you're playing with 6 players on the field, so if you have 6 players show up, you're good. I mean, you can still play with 4. You're not going to have a good time, but you can still play with 4. If you had 3 players show up, we would probably just forfeit the game. I would recommend on your roster having at least 10 players, though, just because that makes it a lot easier. And as far as shin guards and socks go, they are not required for our leagues. Recommended, but not required. At this point, if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to post in the chat. If you don't have any questions, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm going to stop the screen sharing. Thank you all for being here. I'll be hanging around here for a bit to answer any other questions. Otherwise, that's pretty much all the information I have for you. Thank you all for being here. Once again, I'll release the schedule tomorrow afternoon when I send out the link to this video. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you all out there next week. Yeah, thank you all for being here. Have a good night.